Hey my dears, I just wanted to do a quick tutorial of the basics of Silhouette Studio. I know many people are a little intimidated by this software. It is a good bit different than Cricut, so if you start with Cricut, Silhouette Studio can be a little overwhelming. But if you're planning in the future to maybe use Adobe Illustrator or anything like that, this is a little more similar to Adobe Illustrator than Cricut Design Space. Okay. So what we're going to go over today is basically just the things that you really need to know to do the basic operations of Silhouette and make your first cut. So this is like just the bread and butter of what you really need to know for Silhouette Studio. Okay, so first things first, you got 4 tabs up here: Design, Store, Library, and Send. The 2 most important ones: Design and Send. You're going to design everything on this page, and then once you finish that, you're going to go to Send, and this is where you're going to send it to your cutter, okay? Store will just bring you to a Silhouette store where you can buy extra designs if you want to, and Library is basically just that. It's a library of your files, things that you've uploaded yourself and things that came with your Silhouette software. Okay, so let's go back to Design. And let's go ahead and do like the most basic thing and actually open a file. There's a few different things you can do, and we'll go over all of them. Okay, easiest is this little folder right here is just to open, and then you pick your file. Now, you can see that I have Illustrator files, DXF files, and SVG files. We're going to open an SVG file. But one thing to be aware of with Silhouette Studio, you can only open SVGs if you have upgraded your software. So for the basic edition of Silhouette Studio, you can only open DXF files and then the Silhouette files. If you want to be able to open SVGs, which is a very common file type, so most Etsy sellers use these. If you're buying anything from our website at Zindee.com, everything's going to come as a SVG. We will also send a DXF, but the SVGs are much better files. When you open an SVG, it will be exactly the size it needs to be. If you're decorating acrylics or however we designed it, it'll open up how it should, okay? So let's just go over the different software upgrades just really quick so you have an idea of what you need. Okay, so if you look up here, right here you see Silhouette Studio Business Edition. That's the software that we have. There's also Designer Edition, and then there's the Standard. Okay, so if you're new and you just want to check out the software, just download the free one, use DXF files, and then you can get familiar with the software. If you want to be able to open SVGs, you need at least Designer Edition. Okay, if you want to open SVGs and also save your files in SVG, then you need Business Edition, okay? And you don't have to go straight to Business Edition. You can get Designer Edition first, and then you can further upgrade from Designer to Business Edition. It kind of stacks, so you don't have to pay it all at once if you just want Designer Edition, and then you can just pay the difference to go to Business Edition. So it's just a one-time fee, nothing monthly or anything like that. You just pay it one time, and it basically makes your software smarter and more capable. Okay, so now let's go back to how to open the files. Okay, so I showed you this little folder right here. We're not going to save that. So I showed you this little folder right here. That's an option. Another option is File, Open, which is the same thing as this little folder. It's going to bring up your files, you search what you're looking for, and then you can go ahead and open it. Okay, we're going to cancel that. Another option is File, Library, and then you can import to Library. If you do this, what it'll do is actually save to your library right here. So if you have something that you use a lot or you want it to stay in your Silhouette software, you can choose this option. So let's just pick one so I can show you. Okay, so now that went right here. Okay, so we're in the Library tab, and these are just some of my personal files. So let's say we wanted to open one. You can just double click one, and it'll open up. Okay, so that's our happy bladder. All right, now up here, you can have multiple mats going, okay? So this is just the one that was open. This is the one I just opened from the library. If you click this little page, you can get multiple ones. You can work on several different projects at one time. Now, one thing to be aware of with Silhouette Studio compared to Cricut Design Space, if you look, say, at the happy bladder, okay? Silhouette Studio is very much what you see is what you get. You can manipulate everything on one mat. Cricut Design Space likes to separate by color, and you have different mats for each color. Silhouette Studio is not like that. Does not matter at all what colors these are, at all. It only matters how you have it set up to cut, okay? So everything is working on one mat, which is very, very easy, in my opinion, once you get used to it. It's just different. Okay, so let's open something else so I can show you a problem or something you might encounter with certain files. Okay, so we're gonna open the Ask Me SVG. And as I said before, the SVGs will be the correct size. So this is a 2-inch, and you can see that it's already sized at 2 inches. All right, now you may have noticed, see, this is our cutting mat right here. You may have noticed that this kind of shrunk with this file. That's just because the canvas that this was designed on was smaller than 12 by 12, okay? The bladder was designed on a 12 by 12, so it doesn't matter. It didn't change. For this one, it was designed on a smaller one, so it changed. Very easy to fix. Okay, so you can leave it as is, but what'll happen is, like, say I wanted to copy this. Okay, Command C, Command V, copy and paste. If I put this here, it won't cut anything outside of this red line, okay? That's your cut border, which you can see that right here. If you need to get to this window, it's this little page right here. So if it's not up for you, you can click this little page and then that'll come up. I like to keep the cut border on so I can make sure I have everything within that cut border. Now, I'm working on a 12 by 12 mat, and I'm working on a 12 by 12 piece of vinyl. So I really want to utilize this whole space. So what I can do, after checking that I have the right machine, we're using a Cameo 3 today. Our cutting mat is a 12 by 12. You can pick 12 by 24 or smaller if you have a smaller mat. And then here, I'm actually going to change this to 12 inches by 12 inches. That way I can use my whole canvas and anything that's on it will cut. If I'm using like a small piece of vinyl, like a 5 by 5 piece of vinyl, I can always change this to 5 by 5 just so I can visually see how much space I have. And then I make sure I keep everything in here. So if you're ordering like one of our sample size printed vinyl from Zindee.com, those are 6 by 6. So you could do 6 inches by 6 inches. And then you can really see how much you can put on there. It takes kind of the guesswork out where you don't have to count these little squares. It visually shows you. Okay, but for us, we're going to work with a 12 by 12. So 12 by 12, and there we go. All right, so we have our file. We can move it as we need. Okay, so whenever you're working with Silhouette Studio, a lot of times things are grouped or ungrouped. So this file is actually ungrouped. Okay, so if I only pick certain parts, only certain parts are going to move. So I'm going to undo that, which is this little arrow right here. Move everything back to where it was. Okay, and what I can do is I can select everything. I can right click it and I can group it if I want to just move everything around by itself and not have to accidentally take it apart. See, I can click any part of it and move it around. Now this little white arrow, that's your selection tool, okay? So that's what you're going to use to select everything. This one I have ungrouped, and say I wanted to just select Ask Me. I can click it and move it, okay? So your white arrow right here is your selection tool. You're going to use that a ton, okay? These little arrows right here, your undo, you will also use that a ton. So you can undo something, or if I undid it and I didn't want to, I can redo it, okay? So undo and redo. All right, so we went over how to open your files. We went over your page setup. Okay, let's just go over this one more time, the page setup. You click this little page right here, your machine, what kind of cutting mat you have, and then you can change this as needed. You can choose if you want your cut border on there or not. And then another thing is, wherever this arrow is the part that's going to go into your machine. So just visually so you can see this part is going into the machine. If I want to change that, I can with these right here. If it just helps you think, some people just prefer different ways depending on how you think. So you can change it whatever makes sense for you, where you can help you remember. Okay. So, selection tool, these aren't super important right now. I'll explain it in another video. I will quickly go over these. These are if you just want a shape real quick. So like a star. You can go ahead and click that, drag it, and make a star. That's what those are. Circles, squares, all of that stuff. Just simple, easy ways to do that. Another thing that's important is your typing tool, okay? So let's take this and we're going to click on here and we're just going to type Zindee, okay? Now, so we have this. We're going to go ahead and move it. Now, we can change this. We can retype. We can change the font, so on and so forth. So let me show you how to do that. Okay, so here's the color. You can leave it like it is, or you can change the color if you want to visually see it. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what color vinyl you're putting in your machine. Depends on what color it'll be. And it won't affect how it cuts or anything like that based on the color you choose. So that's just completely optional what you do. You can grab these little corner things right here and it'll keep proportions, and then you can just drag and resize as needed, okay? If you click this, this will rotate, this little green circle. And we're going to undo that so I can make sure I get it back nice and straight. If I only want to stretch it, then you can pick these sides. It won't keep the proportions if you pick those sides. So just be aware of that. If you want to keep your proportions, you want to stick with the corners. Okay, so here, what we can do, and this is a border, just visually, the red shows you a cut line. Doesn't matter. It doesn't take the cut line away, nothing like that. So you can turn it off. If you want, you can put nothing. It just depends on what's going to make it easiest for you, okay, to visually see it. So any color, whatever. Now, here, I'm clicking it. I have it selected. I can actually change the font here. So whatever font you want, you can pick and change it accordingly. Let's see if I have. Okay, so like there's a font, whatever you want, change the color, however you want to do. Now, with this, you can cut it just like this. You don't have to do anything special, nothing. But if you want to see the true size of what it is, okay, you can right click and you can weld it, okay? And what it'll do is it'll bring those boxes really close and it'll give you the true size of everything, okay? So, but once you weld it, you can't just change the font. You don't have that option anymore. Okay, so just an idea to kind of give you an idea of how to get the exact size. Another thing you can do is you can make compound path. That will also give you the exact size. So here's a cursive font. I want to show you one of the things that's important with cursive fonts. Okay, so everywhere you see that red line or that outline, that is going to cut. So you don't want to cut into your letters like that. So what you're going to do here is you can actually weld it, and it's going to make it where it's one solid cut like that. Okay, so once you weld it, you can't change it. But you always want to weld your letters so that you don't have cuts inside of each one. Okay, once you weld it, you can still change the size. You can still edit it. You just can't change the font. Okay. And then I'm going to show you one trick with fonts that's super helpful. So let's say red and blue. Let's type red and blue. And let's say I have this one as this font, and this one can stay that one. And we're going to make this one red. We're going to make this one blue. This is something that's really helpful with designing. It's not something you absolutely have to know or anything like that, but you might find it helpful one day and you're gonna be like, I'm so glad I learned that. Okay, so see how different these two are? If I wanted to make this word match the color, the size, the font, what I can do is I can click this, okay? And then I can take this little eyedropper tool and then I can click that. And what it'll do is it'll make it match. So if you're doing a lot of names or anything like that and you want everything to be kind of uniform and you're changing fonts, you can do that. So that's just a helpful trick. Hopefully it helps y'all out one day. Okay, so we're going to delete that. So we went over the selection tool, went over these basic shapes, the typing tool. Again, you just type as needed. You can change your font. You can edit it. Oops, sorry. Gotta select it. Okay, select it. And we're going to put it purple. And let's just put it whatever. All right. And again, these corners, That's what's going to keep those proportions. And then we're going to go ahead and weld it so that we can see the true size of what it is. So 7.08 inches by 2.186 inches. So we're just going to put that down there for now. Okay, so if you're working with a file like this, okay, this one too. This one I've already grouped together. It has no, like I can click anywhere and it moves. This one is not grouped together. So it has different pieces. So what we can do is we can just move everything how we need. So this is basically the pieces that we would need to cut for this acrylic if we wanted to use this large back piece. If you're not familiar with Zindee, all of our acrylics come with a large back piece that matches the acrylic shape exactly. We don't recommend using this piece, but we recommend using it more for designing purposes, but you can use it if you want to. Totally up to you, but these pieces will have it inset and be more not on the edge of the acrylic, okay? But this piece will be exactly the size of the acrylic. Now, just to go over a couple other things, okay, so that's ungrouped, moved around. That white arrow is going to be your best friend. Say you wanted to see close up a certain shape, because this is kind of far away and you want to see close up. You can use these to zoom in the whole page and zoom out. Or you can use this, and what it does is you can go up and down with your mouse to zoom in and out. Or one of my favorite things is this little thing. And what you can do is you can click any shape and it goes straight to that so that you can actually see the exact shape that you want to see really up close and personal. One of the biggest things with designing is to get up close and personal to your projects. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, and then if we want to go back to window, we can fit to window. And then this is if you just want to move things around. So if you ever find yourself with this little hand and you don't know what to do with it, it's because you clicked up here and you only can move that around. You're only moving your canvas. You can't move the actual stuff with that hand. You have to click the thing again and then you'll go back. Okay, so we have our arrow. Now, let's see what else that I think is very important. Oh, if you want to save your thing, you can go right here to this little floppy disk, save, and you can save it to your desktop as your project so that you can always come back to it. Now, over here, there's a ton of different options, okay? There's nothing that's super important that you need to know right away, but I'm going to show you two things that might just be helpful. Okay, so one thing has to do with font again. Oop, can't even spell my own name. All right, so we got that. We're going to go ahead and put it a color so that we can really see it. Click off and then click back and it'll change. Okay, and then we're going to pick that corner and we're just going to move that. Now, this one. Okay, the text style panel. This is another way that you can just see different fonts. Now, a lot of times you might hear people talking about glyphs. Okay, glyphs are hidden parts of fonts that you can, like extra things. Okay, like fancy little swirls and pieces. Some fonts have them and some don't. This will show you those, like say the and sign is one that's in this font. So it just shows you different things that you can do, like extra little fancy stuff. So if you're ever looking for glyphs, this is where you find them. I'll go more into detail with this in another video, but it's just a good thing to know where the glyphs are. Okay, another thing that's important, or that you really will be glad you know, is how to do an offset and inset. Okay, so we got this. Let's go ahead and weld it, okay? Now, most of these things you can also find by right-clicking and seeing them that way. Okay, so, but we're just going to use it here so you can actually see what the menus look like. Okay, so offset. You can pick whatever you want to offset or internal offset. Offset puts an outline around it. Inset puts an outline inside of it. So we're going to click offset, and then all you do is you drag this as big or small as you'd like it. Once you get it to where you want, you just click apply. Okay, and so now we have an offset for that word. So to kind of see it better, I'm going to click that, and we'll just make it blue so you can see. I'm gonna go use my little mouse thing because I'm too far away. We're gonna click that. We're gonna make it blue. And I accidentally clicked this Z, so I'm gonna make it back this pink. Okay, that's why this thing is so great, because a lot of times it's hard to click what you need far away. Okay, so we're gonna go back to see the whole thing, and now we have an offset. Now, selecting your stuff and right-clicking it will give you most of the things that you really need. Cut, copy, paste. You can flip it if you need to mirror it. So that'll give you a lot of the things that you really need. Welding it is in that menu. So you just select it all, right-click, and there you go. Now, if I want to make sure all this stays together, I can select it all, and I can press group, and then now it all stays together. Okay, or I can ungroup it if I want to cut it separately. Same with this one. Right now, I have it all together. Let's say I want to ungroup it. I can do that, and then I can move things as I want. Okay? That's all that's really important on this side right now. Like I said, we're going to go over some more of these things and really show you all the awesome things you can do with Silhouette, but these are just the basics for now. And then this is if you do a ton of things and you want to undo like a bunch of stuff, you can click that and then you can slide down and pick whatever and go back to basically the beginning. So this is just like a Hail Mary if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Multiple undo, and then you can get back to your original. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our page setup. So this is where we're at right now. All right, so let me show you how to actually cut. All right, let's go to send. Now, like I said before, this box is our cut box. So anything in that box will cut. Say, for instance, I only wanted to cut this, okay? Anything with red lines are going to be cut. Now, you have cut edge or you have cut. Okay, so cut means everything that has a cut line, every SVG in there is going to cut those pieces. Cut edge means it's only going to cut the outer edge of whatever you see. So, for instance, this. We're going to select all of that, and then we're going to switch to cut edge. And now what it's going to do is it's only going to cut that outer edge. So if you don't want all of these pieces cut, you will pick out, cut edge, and it will only cut that edge. But say you want like a big circle cut out of another circle, then you would do cut, and it would cut each individual piece. Now, for instance, if I wanted to cut just this, okay, we're going to leave that. And what we're going to do is we're going to just select all of that, and we're going to put no cut. We can leave it all on our canvas just like it is. You don't have to move it. You don't have to delete it. You don't have to take it off. Nothing like that. So whatever I don't want cut, I'm just going to turn the cut lines off. Easy peasy. That way whenever I'm ready to cut it, I still have it all on one canvas. Okay, now a few options you can do. Like say for instance, I wanted to cut this, that, all of it. What I can do on my mat is I can put like a strip of purple and then a strip of mint. And then I can move these to the corresponding boxes on my mat and cut it all at once. So all the colors at one time. Or if I want to work more one color at a time and I want to do Ask Me, I'll just put this wherever on my mat I want it, wherever my vinyl is. So wherever, if you have your vinyl down here in this corner, then you want to put this down here in this corner. So this is a good tool for if you're using printed vinyl and you want a certain part of that vinyl cut. Use these squares. These squares correspond to what's on your mat. So if you have like a really good piece of printed vinyl and the best part that you want to use is right here, then you can just count the squares and move that in that area and then cut that, okay? So as you're ready to cut, you just put cut lines on for whatever you're ready to cut. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so no cut. If I want to cut just this, I can move this however. I tend to always put everything in this top left corner. That's usually where I place my vinyl, and then cut as I need. Okay, like this. I can cut this separately, or I can cut it all together. So if I wanted this indie part, or the Zindee to be cut out of the words of the blue, I would go to cut, and then I would just select it all, and it'll cut exactly that, and then I can weed the inside of those words out. Like say if I wanted to have like a peekaboo glitter thing going on, I can just cut that whole thing, weed out the Zindee, and then the only thing that'll be left is the inside, and then I can put it on something glittery, or if I want to see the backside of a shirt, so on and so forth. So that's how this works. Your material is here. So you can pick all your materials here. I always recommend taking the time and finding the right settings. It will take several test cuts. The newer blades will need less pressure than older blades. Like if you find your cuts are looking jaggedy, that usually means you need a new blade. I know a lot of people try to sharpen it and all that. That's good for short term, like if you're in a pinch, but it's always best to just replace your blade. And then you can pick your own material. So like if you find like the perfect cut settings for a perfect material, you can add your own. So you can add a new material type and then you can use that. This is your blade depth, this is your force, your speed, this is how many times it passes. So if you're doing something very thick, like sticky flock, you might want 2 passes for it to really cut through because that's a very thick material. But always do bunches of test cuts until you get the perfect settings and then save those settings. It will save you so much time and so much headache when you're actually in a pinch and you need something to work. You don't have to figure it out. It's so frustrating to fight with cut settings. So take the time, do that right away, and then when you're ready to actually create and do what you're doing, you're not going to be frustrated. You're like, yes, these are my settings, I'm going to cut it, and it's going to be beautiful, and it will make it so much better. When doing test cuts, what you wanted to do is you wanted to cut through the top layer of your vinyl, but not into your backing paper. If it's cutting into your backing paper, what it's going to do is actually push that glue into the backing and make it very hard to release from the backing. So you basically just want it to cut it. So you just want it to cut the actual vinyl. Sometimes it takes some time to figure out your settings, but once you get it, you are golden. The Silhouette is an amazing machine, and it can cut super intricate designs as long as your settings are correct. I'll do another video on how to do your test cuts and get those correct settings. And then down here, you will see your Silhouette, if it's connected or not. Right now, mine's not connected. You can do your test cut here. And then also, there's different kind of blades, the auto blade, the ratchet blade, deep cut blade. You can pick that here. And then if you're not cutting and you want to sketch, you can do that there. There's also a tool number 2 if you want to do more than one thing. So if you want to draw something and cut it, that's how you can do that there. Right now we're not using tool 2. I only have a tool in tool 1, and this is where we're at. And then once everything's good, you're ready to go. Like say I want this and I want it to cut and my machine's connected, you'll press send. And anytime you pick something like HTV, here it'll have a little pop-up window. Would you like to mirror it? It kind of just helps you remember, because if you've worked with HTV or certain things, you know how easy it is to forget to mirror your image. But that's the basics, guys. Hopefully with this, you can kind of fumble through your first few projects. I promise it gets easier. Silhouette software is amazing. It's limitless what you can do with it. And we will go over several things that you're going to be mind blown about that you can do with your Silhouette software. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I appreciate all of you. And don't forget to shop at Zindee. Love you guys. Bye.